that everything makes sense in a more consistent way. But there are two quarreling parts of physics that currently do not have a unification. And people have tried and failed, and Einstein tried. This was what he died trying. He wanted to have a more unified grand unification theory, is what he called it, GUT, grand unified theory, which would subsume and marry all these parts of physics together, and everything would fall under that more general theory. So a theory that's even more general than general relativity, for example, because remember, GR doesn't really give us anything about quantum mechanics and the particles that we keep discovering, right? So it's sort of this issue. There's an issue like where if general relativity does not do a good job or any job of saying anything about the particles that we experience and have discovered, then it's sort of lacking in that field, if you will. And quantum mechanics has certain bizarrenesses that are not explained in general relativity, and that too is sort of the complaint of a lot of these classical physicists. So both sides have issues with the other side, and they are, like I said, two quarreling partners, two quarreling parts of physics. So I wanted to tell you all about this because this is what we're about to launch into with this chapter called Unification from A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. And he's going to take us through what we have kind of gone through already in the past, where we have talked about unification a few times at least, because this is it. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a unified theory of everything, a unified theory of physics that will subsume everything underneath it, but it's incredibly difficult. And it's very challenging for any one person or even a body of people to kind of come up with it. And when people go ahead and try such a thing, they probably come up with sort of candidates of unification, if you will. And it's kind of like maybe not it could be that the candidate is just not good enough, and so it's not written about as much and not published about as much or not spoken about as much. Or it could be that it's sort of okay, but it's still not quite there yet. For example, I mentioned that there are theories that sort of unify E&M and strong nuclear force and weak nuclear force, but they still fall short because they don't unify those three with gravitation. So it's still not really, you can't really call it a grand unification theory if you don't quite, if you leave out something like gravitation. I don't know what you're saying, but I'm going to continue with my spiel because it's too much fun. But thank you, Reese, for being here. You've been missing every live. I see people are having fun with catching up with each other. So keep on keeping on, guys. So that's the standard as well, is that if you're going to call something a grand unification theory, you have to be able to explain gravitation. If you come from a particle standpoint and you sort of ignore gravitation, that's not going to make people very happy, because gravitation is, of course, something that we all experience. We would like to have an explanation of that without begging, that is. So that's what's going on with the challenges of unification. Let me remind you that this is a sort of unfinished business. Einstein worked on it during his lifetime towards the, till the very end, and did not succeed. But also I will say that when Einstein was around, a lot of the facts of science were still not known. Obviously, we've evolved a lot. We've learned a lot more. Particle physics has come a very long way since that time. And so with all these other extra facts, he might have been able to come up with something. And basically, as far as I understand, string theory, superstring theory, is the candidate for grand unification theory at this point. And